Thank you all for joining us. I'm really excited to be sitting down with you today. I think everybody knows Slush as this global tech event phenomenon, but can you take us back a bit to the origin story? How did it come about?
I mean, the core of Slush has always been the same. I'm a master's student, 20-something-year-old, as our whole team, and that's what Slush has always been like. Our first team was, young students who just took over this crazy project, an idea that this group of serial entrepreneurs had. Like, why don't you try to build the world's biggest and best startup event to Helsinki in November, right? Like, that's a great idea. So that's how it all started. And I mean, how Slush has always been built is with this insane ambition that you can do crazy things, even if you're a small team, even if you don't know much about venture capital. Like when I joined, I was a second-year engineering student 5 years ago. I had never heard about venture, but I was just curious. So that's always been at the heart of Slush. But I mean, from 350 people in 2008 and 5 startups in the audience, we have now grown to 12,000 people, the largest gathering of venture capital with 4 trillion euros in Helsinki. That's, by the way, the value of the European startup ecosystem as a whole. So kind of going from there, but always with young people in the team.
And why do you think it's been so successful? If you go back to the early days, the odds were stacked against that early team. Student run in Helsinki, which is a smaller tech ecosystem in Europe. It's in the middle of winter, it is cold and miserable, and yet it's become this phenomenal get-together of everybody in European tech. Why do you think it's been successful and for so long compared to other tech events that haven't been able to achieve that success?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the facts, the probabilities were stacked against us. It's in November. It's the most disgusting time of the year to come to Helsinki. It's wet snow coming to the ground. It's dark. Who would go there in November? It's run by people who have no networks. It's young students. Also, it's just unheard of to build startups in Helsinki. We had no ecosystem back in the day. So why would anyone come there, right? But the main thing behind Slush has always been a bit similar to what Julia was just talking when it came to Sigma. So having these hungry young people. And the thing about Finland is that we are a country where everything is based on trust. So we actually give young people a lot of freedom to operate. I mean, there's always been people who have been helping Slush to, open doors and give introductions, some more established entrepreneurs, but the heart has always been that you give young people a bit too much responsibility. And that's how you create agency. That's how you create people just hungry, building for something. And our team also rotates quite a lot. I started as CEO just now in January. It's always 2 years, because the whole secret of Slush is to make sure that there's always these people who never settle. You know that you're there for just a short time. And I feel like there's many similarities in terms of mindset for building startups. You need that constant hunger, and you never settle, and you never stop pushing. And that's why Slush has remained.
And I know you're early into the role, but you've been at Slush for 5 years now. Is it run like a startup?
Yep. Actually, the fun thing is that I sometimes talk with other founders, and I'm like, okay, hey, I want to spar with you. How do you recruit people? What's your playbook for X, Y, and Z? And more than once, the founder has been like, where did you get this playbook from? I want this specific playbook. And then I was like, it's just how we run our operations. So the thing is that if you look at the Slush team, we are 45 full-time in Helsinki. And all of us want to be future founders, future operators, future investors. So if you know that you want to build your career out of this and you want to stay in the ecosystem, of course you approach it with a very, very, very deep-seated curiosity. So then when you build something at Slush, you really want to make sure it kind of fits to startups, because you want to understand deeply what it's like to build them. You want to be a founder yourself. So then that kind of forces us to create these incredible playbooks. One of the most practical skills I've learned at Slush is how do you hire, right? If you hire one person, what does it take? You build a pipeline of 100 extremely good candidates. You don't rely on applications. You hunt these people down, and you convince the best people to join you. So all of these playbooks are at the heart of Slush, and something that you can take away when you then go build your own things.
When I talk to founders of startups, the biggest challenge that they have, and the most important issue that they have, is talent.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to you about talent, because you've got this huge pool of volunteers, which is always massively oversubscribed, and then you have this kind of small elite team, you said, of 45 full-time people. How do you think about both sourcing the very best volunteers and then the very best small team?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at startups in Finland, as I said, 20 years ago we had none. So if you wanted to be an entrepreneur, you were seen as someone who is crazy, dumb, and they don't have any other options. So to go from there to, like, and also back in the day, if you asked a high schooler in Finland, like, do you want to be a founder? 1% said yes. And now, looking back last year, they redid the survey, and now 50% of 18 to 25-year-olds in Finland want to be a founder.
Wow.
So going from that to actually founding being the most subscribed to career path is incredible. So how do we do it? I mean, it all just starts from seeing how incredibly exciting it is to build startups. All of us who are interested in this space, like, we're not delusional. It's exhilaratingly exciting to get to build at the frontier with the smartest people in the world. So that's like how we start with the selling. I mean, like, we still have to sometimes, or actually quite often, we go to hiring, people who are doing consulting or who are doing like investment banking or like these more traditional career paths. And it all starts from a very simple sales pitch, which is that, do you want to feel that you're leaving a mark behind? Like, do you want to own something completely, or do you want to help a couple of rich bankers get a bit richer? That's kind of like characterizing the whole question, but that's how it starts, because I feel like everybody of us has this thing inside, like, I really want to leave my mark, I want to have full ownership of something, and that's exactly what startups are. And that's where you start from, and then you have the like seed planted, and then from there you can be like, okay, but like, imagine the network you're going to build, imagine the kind of stuff you can get out of it. Like, the upside is just so much larger, especially in today's world where traditional careers don't exist anymore.
And so when you look at building your team, when I've spoken to people from 11 Labs or Revolut, like, Revolut's classic in the sense that they always want really analytical people. 11 Labs, they've talked about how they screen for humility. Like, humility is a trait that every employee must have at 11 Labs. Are there characteristics or traits, other than like just ownership, that you think is really integral to the Slush leadership team?
Yeah, there's 3 things I look for. Ambition, of course, you have to be smart, and then kindness. These 3 things will carry you through no matter what. And like, it's just how you engineer the recruitment process, like how you can spot for them. Like, our process that you have an intro call where we just like see if there's a fit, then you have the first round for culture fit, and then you have the assignment. And there we measure, like, are you actually like able to think fast enough? But it comes down to all of the like engineered soft questions of like, hey, here's the Slush culture memo. How does it make you feel when you hear that this is not 9 to 5? How do you feel about it? Okay, what least resonates with you, what you hear about Slush? So then kind of like going deep at these questions really helps. So if there's any founders who are thinking about recruiting, like, I would just start from creating your own culture book if you don't have it yet, or culture memo, like what is integral for you. And the same applies for bigger companies as well. Like, what's integral to you about your culture? For Slush, our values are crazy ambition. We have gotten this far simply just being ambitious, but if we settle, we will go down next year. That's how I think. Funnily enough, we also have a value called never settle. So how can you keep pushing even when you think you are already there and you are on the verge of either settling or giving up if something's very hard? But how do you keep pushing, you go into that grit? We also have care deeply. Building ambitious things is a team sport. We will have hard days, so you need the team around you and the kindness of your team around to kind of carry you through those days. Excellence is a habit, something we also talk about, so like how every single small thing you do when you execute compounds over time. So when you do everything exactly perfectly, when no one is watching, that's when you build greatness. So kind of outlining those things for you, what is it that you want to look out for? And then just don't be shy demanding it, because the best people that I've seen actually get very, very, very excited by reading a culture memo. They're like, oh my God, I've been looking for this kind of team for a long time, because like the traditional path is that you just are questioned for wanting to do hard things, right? But the right people want to do hard things, and those are the ones you want to hire. So don't be shy about demanding and sharing what you're looking for, because the right people will resonate, and the wrong people will not. Because like, startups are not for everybody, and that's fine.
And so talent is obviously a really important thing for the event, and you've got a really high bar, and that's obviously one of the things that's made it so good every single year. But the fact that it is so good and has maintained this brand and the status as probably the preeminent leading tech event in Europe is quite unusual. What other things about the way that Slush is run has meant that every year it's been the go-to event?
It's a bit what I mentioned earlier, so there's always hungry people.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, how do you become the CEO of Slush? You have to make a plan for what the next 2 years for Slush look like and make the best pitch. So that in itself is already kind of forcing us to reinvent ourselves every 2 years. And the fact is that like why I think most startup events don't sustain, and I hope Panathēnea will sustain, because I really love the energy, how the team has built this. But the fact is that this space just moves so quickly. Something that was relevant 3 years ago is completely irrelevant now. So, and even now with AI, like you just have to completely and constantly reinvent yourself. So having a team that has that in their DNA is very important. So that's essentially it. Part of my work is just travel around the world, talk to a lot of investors and founders, people who are able to tell what they are having problems with right now, and then how can we package that into an event each year. For example, this year, more so than ever, we're focusing on policymakers. Because if you think about Europe as an ecosystem, we have reached a point of maturity where actually policymakers need to take startups seriously, and we have kind of surpassed the critical mass of good builders and actually excellent builders. And one of the signals I'm focusing on is that, when we went to New York or San Francisco with the team, in previous years we needed to pitch them, like, why do you need to look into Europe? This year I just opened my mouth and I was like, Europe? And they were like, yes, tell me more. Where are the best teams? Like, where are these best communities? So if American VCs are looking into Europe, that tells we have something good boiling here. Because a VC is only curious about where's the best return. So they look at the best teams by nature. So that's why now we're talking more about policymaker stuff and how can we kind of gear our whole society here in Europe into helping startups scale now that we have all of these incredible builders. Like, it's not enough to have seed stage capital or early talent, but now we need scale-up talent, now we need scale-up capital, now we need to gear the whole society to supporting startups. Similar to what Finland did with Nokia back in the day. Like, we re-engineered our whole university programs to support and bring the right talent to the country. So now we need that in Europe. So kind of like that's Slush for this year, but again, next year things might be different. So that's kind of what's always been there.
So there's always a bit that you're changing, right? Every year it's got to stay innovative and adapt and kind of change with the times. What are some of the things that should and will never change about Slush?
I mean, the thing about Slush is that the new CEO will always decide. Yeah. So I cannot say that something will never change, but what I wish never changes is that we are not for profit, we're run by students, and that we stay in Europe, hopefully in Finland, Helsinki. Not for profit is super important, because of course, like if you are for profit, your first KPI is always going to be how do I make money? But as a not for profit, that's always secondary. So we can always focus on just like leaving the biggest mark, being impactful, helping founders to create and change the world. That's why we exist. But if we ever change to go for profit, that's just going to rewire the whole thinking of the company. So that's one thing I wish that never changes. And then, of course, the young students. I mean, Slush is the main product I build with the team. But for me, the reason I wake up every morning is that we bring 2,000 young students to the startup ecosystem every year. It's usually their first touch point to Slush. I'm one of those people as well. And over the past 18 years of our history, we brought 15,000 people, young students, to the Helsinki ecosystem. And for a country of 5.5 million people, that's a huge number. And I would like to think that we were part of creating that 1% to 50% of founder intent. So that's why I wake up in the morning. So I wish that we never changed that kind of young hunger and drive and kind of building the ecosystem for Helsinki and also the whole of Europe at the same time. So yeah, those things are very important to me.
And this is going to be your first year as CEO. As I mentioned, you've been there for 5 years in different positions and roles. What does success look like for you in your role?
I want that the people who have been coming to Slush for 15 years, even like 18 years, like there's people who've come like every single year, incredibly thankful for all of them. I wish that even those people will feel that we're doing something different. We're doing something bolder, we're doing something bigger. There's a lot of things that we're building now that I can't yet talk about. There's a lot of big launches coming in August. But I want that no matter who you are who comes is feeling a different type of energy. And where that energy is coming from, it's the ecosystem. Because like when I've been traveling now around Europe and talking to all of these people, like I feel like we are kind of consciously rewiring our brains here in Europe. Like what's possible and what can we do? And we're kind of like standing on our own feet. So I want Slush to be a reflection of that when the event comes. But of course, like the easy answer is that it has to be the best Slush ever. That's always the goal, and that's what we're building. But more people, or more high-quality people, more curated audience, better event week. We're rebuilding our whole startup offering for this year. Making sure we curate the things that we built more, making sure that the investors have a better curated, more ROI week for themselves, like, just like making sure that those touch points are there. Because at the end of the day, events are incredibly simple. It's just bringing the best events or best people and making sure they meet each other. If you just focus on those two things, that's great. You can't be that far off, and that's what we're doing. But maybe the longer-term vision that we're now going towards to wrap up what I want to do this year is that by 2050, 2 out of the 10 most valued companies in the world will be European tech companies. Slush alone can't do it, right? But what we are going to do is accelerate the earliest stages of company building and make it faster than ever before. Because if we bring the whole world of venture, 12,000 people to Helsinki, 6,000 founders, 3,500 investors, some media, some speakers, some corporations, like, what if we just ooze every single drop of impact of that week when everybody comes to Helsinki and we accelerate our best builders and make sure they get what they deserve in a way. So that's what we're doing.
And at the end of an event, you spend all year planning it or organizing it, you run it, and it's a lot of fun. How do you know that event was a success? When you talk about, you want to bring all these people together, are there metrics that you track around who's in the room, how long they stay for? Do you talk to people? Like, how do you get a sense a week, a day after the event that was a great success and, yeah, you're happy with it?
I love this question. I'm a very analytical person. So we have trackers for absolutely everything.
Wow.
We're already tracking, like, how many investors do we have coming from this specific segment? Like, let's say, how many family offices from USA are coming now compared to last year? How many media, including yourself, like, how many have registered for Slush? We also track we track everything essentially. Like, we have a whole analytical backbone behind Slush. And one advantage we have is that Slush is application only. So everybody who buys a ticket as a startup or investor has to fill a quite long application. Thank you to everybody who does it. It's a lot of work, I know. But the benefit is that we actually know into very, very, very high level of detail who is at Slush.
Wow.
So we can curate invites. We can make sure we know how to help them. And after the event, we run, like, what happens after Slush? So Slush ends on a Thursday. On Friday, we have a day off. On Monday, we get back to work. And the next 2 weeks, we collect thousands and thousands of answers to our feedback survey. And then we have, like, hundreds of thousands of rows of data that we analyze, and we go through all of that. And let's see. Oh, now we're back. Thank you. So we analyze all of the data, and we make the thesis for next year based on that. So that's what we do. And the main thing I'm looking at for this year is if we can increase our NPS by 0.3. We're now at 9.2. So can we make it 9.5?
Yeah, amazing.
That's the main metric we have. Of course, many others, but that's the main thing. Can we curate the event so much better that the NPS goes to 9.5?
Amazing. And maybe this is a bit unfair on the spot to ask you, but are there any trends that you've seen over multiple years that you've collected all this data of visitors and guests? Are you seeing trends? Is it more startups, more big enterprises, more American investors? Are there bits of data points that you can share?
Yeah. Some of them stay quite stable. One of them is, for example, that 60% of the startups who come to Slush are first-timers, which makes a lot of sense, right? Startups by nature die, unfortunately, but then there's new ones. So that's why we also travel a lot and make sure we meet all the new founders always. We have been going more international. Nowadays, only 20% of the audience of Slush is Finnish, and that's by and large startups. Investors have always been very international. I think it's only 10% of investors come from Finland, and a big portion come from the US. Like, we do so much work. I came directly from New York to here to make sure we bring all the best funds from the United States to our doorstep here for European startups to fundraise from. Which other metrics could we look at? Well, I think one of the most important ones that we always track is the total VC assets under management in one roof, and that's been something that's been growing very fast. We went from 1 trillion in 2021 to 4 trillion last year.
Wow.
Pretty big increase there, but that's all from us just making sure we keep hunting those investors who never come before. So a lot of data that we track, but I would say those are the most important ones to remember.
Amazing. Well, look, Noora, we're out of time, but thank you so much for joining me, and I'm looking forward to Slush later this year.
Amazing. Thank you.